Hey lovelies, you're welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. So Lexi, who is Nell Fletcher's stepdaughter and Chris's daughter, is speaking out about Nell and Chris. I actually feel like the way she has gone about it is very tasteful. I don't think I watched the video and it did not come across as she was trying to bash them in any way. It just came across as she was trying to tell her story. I feel like there are certain situations where people that are trying to tell their story, it turns into them trying to bash the other person, which takes attention away from the story they are trying to tell. In this case, I didn't feel that way at all. If anything, I felt like Lexi had matured since that scene and Lexi was just trying to tell her story. I also felt like Lexi had a lot of empathy for Nell because as an adult, you go back and you think, why could Nell be acting this way? And if you sit down and evaluate it, it sounds like somebody who does not feel protected by their husband. It sounds like somebody who does not feel secure in their relationship. It's like someone that constantly has to look over their shoulders because they cannot trust the person that they are married to. That is a big problem. That is a huge deal. And I want to talk about what Lexi had to say and also give you guys my commentary about it. I genuinely feel like there is a lot going on with Miss Nell, and to an extent, I feel like Chris was the catalyst for a lot of those issues, and I'm going to talk about it shortly. But before then, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And to my returning subscribers, thank you for your support. You're welcome back to the channel. Everyone, please like, please share, and don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. These are free ways to support the channel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Now let's get into today's video. So Lexi sort of opened up and said that she has never seen her mother and Chris together, that it's always been her stepmom Nell and her dad. And I think that's really important because it's not like she has anything to compare it to, and it's not like she necessarily needs to have any certain feelings about her mom and her bio dad, because it's never like, it wasn't like she grew up with them and then there was a separation and then she has to deal with the hurt of her parents no longer being together. What it sounds like is she didn't even grow up seeing her parents together, so there wasn't really anything to compare it to. It was almost like as soon as she was conscious, it was her stepmom and her dad. I think that's really important because I think in the past when Lexi initially came out, a lot of people were saying things like, oh, you know how kids are and wanting their parents to be together. And I think that's where that sort of came from. But I am glad that she cleared that up. Now, she said something that I thought was really interesting. When she was younger, she said that she didn't really have like any unpleasant memories about Nell and that she used to refer to Nell as her mom. But when she got to around the age of 10, that's when she noticed that things started to shift. Imagine going over to visit your family and everyone else has a room, but you don't have a room. And I know as an adult, you may be thinking, oh, well, who cares? But think about it from the perspective of a 10-year-old. Think about it from the perspective of a child. You're going over to visit your siblings, and then it's like all you can tell is there is a separation between how you are being treated and how the rest of your siblings are being treated. She even talked about how her sister had a lot of toys and Nell wouldn't even allow her to play with those toys or touch those toys so she doesn't mess it up. That's the thing. It's like you're clearly creating a division between your children. It's almost like, okay, we have this child over there who is your child from a previous relationship, and then I have my children, so don't touch my children's things. I honestly believe that a lot of people need to evaluate before you sign up to be somebody's stepmommy. Really think about whether you are able to do that, whether you're able to build up this child in a way that it doesn't feel like you are separating them from the rest of the family. Are you ready to actually be a bonus mom to this person and take that child and treat the child in the same way you would treat your own biological child? And this is why I feel like if a lot of people really thought about that and were genuinely honest with themselves, a lot of people will not end up in relationships with people who already have children. I've encountered people in my past who would say to me that they can never adopt because they will never love the child the same way. If anyone says that to you, that clearly tells you that if you had a child that they had to bring in as their own, they're not going to treat that child in the right way. So I just feel like parents need to do better and be a little bit more awake, especially if you have a child. It's your responsibility to ensure that your spouse is able to treat your child properly, and you also have to do your part and be present for your child because that is your bio child. Lexi mentioned something that I think is really interesting. Apparently there was a time where she was trying to reach Chris and she couldn't reach Chris. And when she would call Nell to try to speak to Chris, Nell would say Chris wasn't around or she couldn't reach him. Think about it from a child's perspective. The child is probably thinking, you're hiding my daddy. How come I can't speak to my daddy? But Chris was definitely, there's nothing anyone could tell me, was an irresponsible father in my opinion. Because if not, even if you're going to be away, even if you're leaving Nell, pick up the phone and call Lexi's mother so you can speak to your child. Imagine your child is the one going around trying to call up her stepmom to speak to you. That shouldn't even be the case. You're the parent. And right now, she's doing a better job at communicating than you are doing. Lexi basically said she later found out when she was 17 that Chris had left Nell for another woman and her kids. But think about that. Before that, Lexi would have had resentment towards Nell because from her perspective as a child, she would have been thinking that Nell did not want her to spend time with her father. This is why I say Chris is a weak man in my opinion. I feel like Chris should have stepped up to the plate. If you want to leave Nell, that's on you. But do not lose contact with your children. She then talks about at some point when Chris called her and asked her to come over to the house. And apparently at that point, Nell had gotten quieter. Imagine. That is probably the time where Nell's resentment towards Chris already set in. And it probably then trickled down to the way that Nell treats Lexi. Now, the only person, now of course, I will talk about Nell in a second, but the biggest person to blame here is Chris. First of all, Chris, I feel like you haven't created a safe space for your wife in her home. Imagine you are with this woman, you guys are together, you have children together, and you decide to leave her for another woman and her kids. Even if she forgives you, that has created a situation where she feels like she cannot trust you. It's like you have created a huge wound that will take a lifetime to try to fix. How can she trust that you wouldn't do it again? Especially if that is how you met her, because you were doing that to your ex-wife. Can you blame her for not trusting you? And the thing I always find is, and I really believe this with all of my heart, if a woman does not feel safe, secure, she is going to be angry, resentful. She is going to lash out. It's a shame that she's lashing out at the wrong person. It's almost like maybe perhaps she sees Lexi as a symbol of what she has been through with Chris. And it's a reminder. So every time she sees Lexi, she remembers Chris's sins. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like that lack of safety, that lack of security has pushed Nell to a point where she's angry. People can forgive you, but sometimes the impact of what you have done can be so deep that it takes them so long to get over it. And this is why I feel like Nell needs therapy. I feel like Nell has not really dealt with the shock, the betrayal, everything that she went through when Chris left her. Like, it's one thing to cheat. It's another thing to carry your bags and leave the whole relationship, your whole family, and leave Nell to carry the cross of taking care of your children, to take care of your responsibilities because you walked away. And then imagine how many times I always say to you guys that Chris never protects Nell because he lets Martell speak to her anyhow, which then makes me feel like Nell is the one that is steering the ship. Nell is the one that has to be in her masculine energy because Chris is weak, in my opinion. I have never seen a situation where a husband keeps quiet and allows another man to disrespect his wife without him saying anything. It does not look good. It is clear that he does not protect his wife. So if you don't protect her, how can she be safe? How can she be secure? How can she lay down and not be angry and just be happy and excited because she can't trust you? She doesn't know if you're going to pull the rug under her feet. At least that's what I think. Now, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below and we'll continue the conversation in the chat. Don't forget to like, share, hit that subscribe button and tap that bell button right next to it so you know every single time that I post. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye.